Hello and welcome back to the Project Hercules Diaries. Now it's great to have a drawing of something. This is one of Bob's drawing of the gearbox sort of side elevation, and it's even nicer when you have the real thing in front of you, and there it is. So this is the gearbox in skeleton format. I've put the clutch on, we've put the two sprockets onto either side. So this is first gear, or the low speed, and this is top gear, the high speed. You can see that they are both loose on the shaft. This is the central shaft that is driven by the clutch, and that when the dog engages here or here, as these two are moved left and right on the selector fork, it locks this or this sprocket to the shaft. All that was explained last time, so should be no news there. Now, pay close attention to this bit here. This is the end float that we need to take out. So these plates have been set exactly the right width apart with relation to the outer case. The outer case is here, the cotton reel, and it just fits nicely just in between the two plates. You can't quite see that on the video, but it's a lovely fit just in there, so it just slides in place. So we know that these two faces here are exactly the same distance apart as they will be when they're bolted onto the case itself. So that gap there, that end float, if that gap was too tight, if we couldn't get that distance because these bronze bushes were up against the splines, we would machine down the bronze bush at either side, so we got a nice fit with no end float. As it's the other way, what it means is that one of these plates or both of these plates or the outside of the cotton reel will be shaved down to take that end float out. And what we're electing to do is to take this face on this side away. And the reason for that is that the distance between the centre line and the clutch centre is exactly as drawn. The distance between the centre line and this sprocket is exactly as drawn. And it's this end that's slightly longer when you measure the distance between the two drive sprockets. And that's good, because if it was the other way around, if it was slightly smaller than we thought, it would reduce the chain clearance against the back wheel. If it's slightly wider than we thought, it's okay, because we've got a little bit more clearance for the chain on the back wheel. And we're not talking, you know, like an inch or, you know, 20 mil. We're talking about probably a 1/10 of an inch, something like that. Talking about that distance there. So we're only talking about a very small shave off here. And I think overall we're about 5 millimeters further apart on the two chains, which in the big scheme of things, it is neither here nor there. There should be clearance. So we need to measure that gap there. And the way to do that is to use our trusty slip gauge, which is here. And every time I open a box of slips, it's almost like the sun comes out and you can hear the carol singers. Lord, doesn't that look a beautiful thing? So the slip gauges, we've tried them in the gap, and I think that 0.118 is about the right size. So that's what we're going to have to machine out. And I'll just show you what we've done to do that. In here, so we take up all of the end float, and then we insert the slip gauge in between the end of the spline and the bronze bush, and that's a lovely fit in there, so that we know that we've got the exact right clearance. And when you get the right actual slip, which would help, wouldn't it? It's a lovely fit. There we go. So there's no end floating out at all, but it's not overly tight. That is the right dimension that we need to take off this face here. So that's the job for later in the week or next weekend when we're not working, or perhaps I'll leave it on here in the shed fair as I do it while I'm at work. So we take 0.118 off this face here. Then when we bolt everything together, there'll be absolutely no end float in the gearbox, and we can start working then on the mechanism to move the selector forks with a bar on the side. So that, I'm really pleased with that. That looks really good. You can see how it's going to work. All the distances have come out pretty much as per the drawing, and on the end of the weekend, that's a great way to leave it and have perhaps a little drink. So as usual, thank you for watching. More updates will follow.